the Carillon bells have a very complicated harmonic development, and if certain numbers of bells are sounded together, the sound may not be as pleasing. So a good carillonneur would learn how to thin out notes, say, if they were playing something written for piano. And so there are a few little things that one has to learn to do differently when playing the carillon than when playing organ repertoire or piano repertoire. Also, the lower the bell, the bigger the bell, and the louder the bell. Therefore, one has to play the low bells somewhat with less energy than the high bells so that the balance of sound will be similar, so that the voicing will be good.
It's not part of the normal harmonic series of, say, a violin or a pipe organ or a piano, but it's better than, say, a tritone or a minor second or a seventh. You know, it's not the most pure, musically pure interval or the most harmonically pure interval, but at least it's consonant.
Bell foundries such as Meeks, Watson and Company in Georgetown, Ohio, first create bells by pouring molten bronze into a mold. Once the bronze mold has cooled, the mold is destroyed and the unfinished bell is born. This bell must be tuned before it can be played. Larger bells are placed on a rotating table, and a crane lowers a blade into the bell to cut away the bronze from the inner profile of the bell. Smaller bells are placed on engine lathes and cut by hand. The bell tuner must take care to test his progress along the way. If he goes too far, he must melt the bell and cast it again.
Well, a principal difference between a bell and another type of musical instrument in that regard is the presence of the tierce or minor third in the middle of the structure. It's an extra partial in bells. It cannot be tuned as a major third in a bell of normal shape, or normal carillon bell shape. There have been special bell shapes developed to provide a major third tuning, but that changes the balance of the other partials and of the position of the upper partials in the bell so much that the bells sound quite different. It casts a different sort of a sheen on the tone, and particularly in the large bells, it makes the tone rather pungent. Of course, the partials are rather more prominent in a bell tone than they are in a string or a pipe. At least the first few are, and some of them tend to last quite a long time, especially in large bells. So you get quite a richness, which means that when you're arranging carillon music, you have to watch that you don't use too many large bells together at one time. Besides, of course, the fact that they don't have dampers and the sound overlaps.
One of the predominant attributes of the carillon, of the minor third carillon, is in fact that minor third. It's what gives it the sonority, and it's what gives it, quite frankly, the unique tone that it has. It's what makes it different than the pipe organ or the violin or the piano.
The interesting thing about the bells is that they sound pretty just played one at a time. So a very young musician or an inexperienced one could simply play the melody of a song on the bells, and I think would enjoy playing it, and I think the listener would enjoy hearing the song, especially if it were something they recognized. Our carillon, well, carillons in general, have a keyboard that we give the German word Klavier, and it has little sticks that stick out from the frame, and one plays the sticks with fists, which pulls a wire which pulls the clapper against the bell. And so it's arranged as a piano keyboard is arranged.
Well, a large bell, I'm talking 3,000–4,000 pounds. If you strike it a fairly good blow, you can go to the bell as much as a minute later and feel it still vibrating. You won't hear it through the air, but if you hear a bell of that size ring fairly loudly outside of a tower, you probably will hear it for at least 7 or 8 seconds, sometimes a little longer, and that's enough to overlap quite a lot of other music if you have fast music going on in the background. So you do have to watch, and that's of course one reason that the use of the traditional Carillon keyboard, where you have complete control over dynamics, is very important to the Carillon, because you can hold back on the bass, and a bell struck more softly is less prominent, but also the perceived decay time will be faster, because it gets down below the level of where you can hear it outside the tower quicker. Oh, so far as the actual indestructibility of the bell, oh yes, bell bronze is not really attacked by anything environmentally, except for, in certain cases, very high concentrations of smog.
In another sense, the Carillon is kind of a public instrument and is heard by everyone who happens to be walking by or comes to listen. So the repertoire we tend to play tends to be not quite as serious as concert repertoire on the organ or the piano would be. There are lots of things currently available for the Carillon. Some things are based on pre-existing melodies that the passerby might recognize in that particular segment, or they might be through composed works that just did something that tickled the fancy of the composer. As we come on up to the 20th century, we do a lot of popular music on the Carillon because of who our listener might be. Hymns also are very popular on the bells. Then there's repertoire written by some of the great composers.
Now, why did you study Carillon?
Oh, it's kind of like, why climb Mount Everest? Because it's there. I'm kind of one of those crazy musicians who likes to play lots of instruments and know lots of music. So the Carillon was just another conquest in my list.
My goal is to play the bells. My goal is to make the bells known. But my time is limited here. It's the people who have come before me and who stay here and who will stay here after me that ultimately are the huge benefactors for the Carillon. And it's because of that interest and because of those people that we even have an instrument in the first place. And it's good that we have teachers and colleagues who are willing to help shape the bell's future as well.